Meanwhile, a bigger story is unfolding, which is the accelerating physical and mental decline of President Biden. Now, I take no joy in this. I would like to beat Joe Biden on his disastrous record from the debacle in Afghanistan through Bidenomics and inflation of more than 20%, to the growing use of race as a measure of people's worth in the United States. It's a nightmare of incompetence. And I took to X yesterday to point out, this is the most incompetent group of people I have ever seen. I'm 68 years old. I've been following politics since I was 18. So that's 50 years of politics. I have never seen a group of incompetent people at this level in the government. I ran into a lot of incompetent people in the Reagan years. There are always incompetent people among a political employee. There are 3,000 political appointees in every administration. There's a best and there's a worst. And I have happened to run into both the best and the worst. But I have never seen 2,999 of them tie for worst. And that's what we've got, whether it's the Secret Service or not. But Joe Biden himself is falling apart. I want to bring to you the worst part of a bad speech at the NAACP yesterday by President Biden, who is breaking with tradition and campaigning during the other party's convention, so I hope Donald Trump takes note. Cut number 5, Joe Biden at the Las Vegas convention of the NAACP.
The idea that corporate-owned housing is able to raise your rent $300-400 a month or something, under what I'm about to announce, they can't raise it more than $55.
All right. I want to unpack this for you. The President of the United States has had a meeting with his advisors. They're trying to find anything to throw at the wall. They're talking about, and they will be unveiling an attempt to legislate term limits for the Supreme Court, unconstitutional on its face, to legislate an ethics code for the Supreme Court, unconstitutional on its face and a made-up dilemma. There is no problem there whatsoever. It's all just Sheldon Whitehouse fever dreams. That's just normal. But they also came up with the idea, we got to rally our left-wing base and the middle class and the lower middle class and the lower class and the people who have nothing at all except government checks. We got to rally them because rents are going up dramatically in the United States because of inflation, making landlords pay more for everything. Electricity, rebuilding the toilet that's broken. Everything costs more, as you know if you've been to a Home Depot. You know if you go to the grocery store. So landlords, of course, are passing along as much of that increase in their cost as they can to renters without destroying their occupancy rate. So Joe Biden and his advisors hit upon a scheme. They're going to limit rent increases. It's illegal. It's unconstitutional. I don't even think it would pass the Commerce Clause Act if they linked it to the international and national economy. Nevertheless, they're going to come up with a plan. Their plan is we're going to put a cap of 5% on hikes for units held by corporate ownership. Now, that's pretty much 90% of units in America. There might be a few mom and pops out there that own 1 or 2 units, and they wouldn't be covered by a 5% rate hike. But A, it's unconstitutional. B, it's not going to happen. But more importantly, for understanding the president's mental decline, they had a discussion. They agreed on a policy, a 5% rate hike for renters. All right, a cap on rate hikes for renters, 5%. The president talks about it. They kick it around. They agree, let's go with 5%, not 10%, not 2%, not 8%. Let's go with 5%. We're going to say 5%. Okay, that's the policy. It's illegal, but they're going to run with it as rhetoric. And so Joe Biden, with this 5% rule in mind, goes to Nevada, and he says, let's play it again, cut number 5.
The idea that corporate-owned housing is able to raise your rent $300-400 a month or something, under what I'm about to announce, they can't raise it more than $55.
He can't read it. He has forgotten that it's 5%. He can't freelance. He's afraid of freelancing. His advisors don't say anything, Mr. President, except what's on the teleprompter. They put into the teleprompter 5% sign. He can't read it, and he can't remember that it's 5%. So he says $55. That is not a normal error. That is not a speech impediment. That is not a flub. That is not a gaffe. That is mental decline in real time. We can't reelect this man, and they ought not to renominate this man, but the Democrats are afraid of stepping up and saying so. Where is Barack Obama? Where is Nancy Pelosi? Where is Hakeem Jeffries? Where is Chuck Schumer? Those are the four leaders of this party. They ought to all get together and say, we call upon the delegates to nominate somebody else. They could even endorse Kamala Harris if they'd like and let her have clean hands. But they can't let this guy run the country for the next. They ought to invoke the 25th Amendment.